back to the Queer Circle, where healers step up to the mic to share their journey and what they tell their younger self. Today we have Alex Martinez. She is a queer Chicanx visual artist and teacher in Oakland, California. She has a bachelor's in art, multiple subjects credential, and an educational specialist for students with moderate to severe disabilities. We catch up with her as she visits San Diego to make some art and hang out with her friend's dog, 8 Ball.
I was born in Northern California. Both of my parents are from Mexico. They're both born there, so I'm second generation. My father's side is from Zacatecas and Guerrero, and my mother's side is from Michoacan, though both of them lived close to the border for a long time before, or a short time before that they emigrated. My mom's family lived in Mexicali for a while as well. So my mom's side emigrated to Watsonville, California, which is in the central coast, south of Santa Cruz, where my grandparents worked in the fields and in the canneries there. That's like strawberry country and canning, lots of canning going on there. So they worked there, and then my grandfather, on my father's side, also worked in the fields. My grandmother also. Everybody did really. Up in Northern California, in near Chico, California, they lived. They lived in this small town called Butte City, where my grandmother still has a house, though she's now passed away. But my parents met in college. They went to school at Chico State. My mom lived with a bunch of Latinas, like first years in this apartment with like 2 or 3 roommates, and one of my mom's roommates is my aunt Maricela, and so Maricela introduced my mom to my dad, and they began dating, and they got pregnant with me, and they decided to get married, and my mom decided to drop out. My dad stayed. My dad became a teacher. My dad taught for 30 years and just retired a couple years ago. But my mom dropped out and really just focused on being a parent after about 4 years of being together and lots of marital strife, just an unhealthy relationship. My mom and my dad had my brothers also within those years, and then they divorced when I was about 5. And so my beginnings was really like noticing just how independent my mom is and just how happy she is as a single parent. She's just a really an amazing caregiver. And so she had my brothers and I, within about 5 years of each other. And then 20 years later, she had my kid sister, Bella. So there's 4 of us. I'm the oldest. And I think that what's really informed a lot of myself is for most people is learning from your parents and seeing their examples and noticing. For us, it was a lot of non-examples of unhealthy relationship dynamics. There's a lot of trauma specifically on my dad's side, but also my mom's side, but really violent physical and mental abuse that they suffered from my grandfather, who's actually died of was murdered in a very brutal way when my father was 16 years old. So he left my grandmother widowed with 7 children, not speaking very much English, with all these kids to take care of. And I've just started learning more about that time and that murder, but learning that that was actually ruled a homicide, and that from what I understand, my family decided it wasn't I decided not to continue that cycle of violence. So, and I know there was an investigation. I know someone was arrested, but I'm learning now. I'm starting to learn more about what really happened, and how that incident was documented. It was 1973, and he was, not a citizen, so not really, or he was, he came through the Bracero program, as I understand, so he had a visa to work, but not necessarily a citizen, and just how he was treated, how his case was probably treated, and just from the little documentation I've been reading, just kind of noticing some implicit bias already in the documentation that I've read. So I say all this because I didn't have a lot of information about my dad's background, and really what him and his siblings and my grandmother endured. Just knew that they had really had a really difficult background story, and a context for a lot of their trauma and a lot of their disconnect as family members. So, and I really wanted to understand my dad as a human, as just a person that had endured a lot, and because he has suffered a lot of alcoholism and a lot of alcohol abuse in our lives, and still today struggles with it, but just understanding his story has helped me to accept a lot of who he is, the pain and the love that I have in that relationship. I think it's been really healing for myself, but also it's helped me to have, I think, a better relationship with my dad. So my early realizations of my queerness. Well, I started exploring with my sexuality when I was in second or third grade. I had a friend that lived in my apartment complex, same apartment complex, and I don't know how it started, but we started fooling around in the closet. We would fuck around in the closet, and it got to this point where our friends were like, hey, what are you guys doing? We want to play with you. And we'd be like, no, we're just, no, we didn't want to hurt their feelings. So we decided to lie. We decided to say that we had to do something together. And so we scrambled and we're like, let's say that we're taking a dance class together. And so we said oh, we're in A dance class right now. Then we were in D or C or whatever it was. And they were like, really, you're in a dance class together, show us. So we were like, oh my God, now we have to we haven't been going to dance class. We've been fucking around the closet this whole time. So we need to figure out some choreography or something to show and prove to these girls that we've been doing this dance class. So we spent an afternoon coming up with some choreography, and then we had them over to my room and showed them our choreography, which is probably not anything, but they were impressed. They believed it. We were fine. We were in the clear. I don't know how much longer we continued to fuck around, but I think we probably stopped because we were like, whoa, that was a close call. And but yeah, so then after that, very sexual time, I didn't date for a long time. I was also second and third grade, so yeah, I was just a kid. But I think the next, I had a bunch of crushes, but then, and I think I just kind of buried my sexuality for a long time. But I would have these wild crushes on women and on men, or boys and girls at the time, and people. And my first kiss was a friend of mine, some girl. I don't remember her name, but she was like, it was after school one day, and she was like, I'm just kissing everybody in the group today. And I was like, well, okay. And then she kissed me, and I was like, whatever, like, no big deal. It wasn't anything. And had a couple of boyfriends in high school. So, yeah, I didn't have another like love interest for a long time. In high school, my boyfriends and I like barely kissed, and I couldn't connect. I didn't even like I couldn't connect emotionally with them. So maybe it's just like a development thing. Because I just thought, I was like, there's not a real reason why we are dating besides that we like find each other attractive. And then in college. First year of college, I came out like right away. I had a boyfriend that was like, you're bi. And I was like, how dare you like tell me something about myself? Like, you don't even know me. Like, but yes, I am. But like, go away. No, I didn't appreciate the audacity, but he was right. And so I told my parents, and it wasn't like an earthquake hit or anything. Like, my dad was just like, yes, I know, you got like, you're my daughter, of course I know that. And my mom was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay. And my stepmom was like, really? And I was like, yeah, I am. So what's crazy is that the people that I considered myself like the closest to were kind of like the most surprised. But my dad, who I at the time like didn't have the closest relationship with, was the one to be like super. I felt like the most affirming. And over the years, I mean, it's not the same. Not. I don't feel the same amount of same kind of scale of affirmation. But, anyways, so I just started dating all kinds of people and seeking relationships with women and queer people and genderqueer people or people. And my queerness is, it's just, I don't know, being queer is the best thing in the world. I mean, I think for queerness is your sexuality, but it's like, it's also your like, fuck you to all of the systems in the world that try to, that, just weren't made for everyone. I think it's just a way of radicalizing your politics, your yourself, your sexuality, the way that you live in the world. It's just kind of looking at it and saying, like, just because these systems have been here doesn't mean they're right. Just because, the everyone is, I guess, what's the word? It's just an incorrect assumption that people are straight until they're not, they come out, like, why is it the assumption that's how people are, and it's frustrating. So anyway, my queerness is it's a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful that I had a family that accepted me. I think over the years, I haven't brought that many people home, but it's just because my personal feeling is that, like, unless someone is going to be in my life for a long haul, they're most likely not going to get to meet my family. And there's for a lot of reasons, but I really hold my family, my mom's point of view in really high regard, and my relationship with my dad has been up and down, but I don't necessarily want to include everybody in that side of my life until I feel like they're my family as well. So I've had a couple of people that I've introduced, but mostly that's very just reserved for somebody super special. So yeah, so in that relationship. I think it's been really healing for myself, but also it's helped me to have, I think, a better relationship with my dad. So that's sort of our beginnings. I think as I grew up with my dad as an alcoholic, and two younger, going back and forth between my mom and my dad's house for visitation, I started to just kind of develop a sort of sense of self-determination and wanting to be really separate, and not need my dad's, not need my dad's like guidance, or I didn't want him to be able to kind of tell me what to do. So I wanted to have independence from him, like financially and kind of spiritually. For a while, I was just pretty angry, and angry at men in general, I think. But so I became like a, independent, like wanted to just get away while still needing like some financial support for going to school. Went to school in 2001 for art. Art had always been a part of my life. But I went to school to study studio art at San Francisco State and did the thing. It took a long time, probably because there wasn't very good guidance at the school, but studied printmaking and painting and still do it today, love it. But I really kind of struggled to figure out how to make it my work. I wanted it to be my work, but whether or not I wanted to monetize it. I also really wanted to teach. I always really gravitated to jobs that involved some kind of education. So I worked at an after-school program in the Lower Haight, and then I also worked as a nanny, and I worked as a volunteer for Creativity Explored, an art center for adults with some cognitive disabilities. I'm not sure if they say that, but it's an art center for adults with disabilities. And there is when I really noticed this is the population that I really love working with, and I really love making art with this population. And at the time, the idea of being a teacher in that economy was just did not seem stable. And like I said, I've always kind of felt like I needed to be able to stand on my own 2 feet without any support financially. So I was get a job that is going to give me financial security, and I'm going to get a credential that's in high demand. So I could be a special education teacher and a general education teacher, so that I'd be able to do inclusion-based teaching. And became a moderate to severe special teacher, which is even more impacted. So I started working in the East Bay, in Oakland, and worked with adult or young teenagers to transitional age adults, really focusing on supporting them into adult day programs and on skills to increase their general quality of life. So anything from adults, and there that my students had a lot of behavioral challenges, really rooted in not having very strong communication systems. So I worked really hard with behavioral therapists and their caregivers to figure out what were the functions of the behavior and how to support them to communicate their needs in a way that was going to get them what they needed without for others. So that was really great work. It was really hard work. And then I chose to move back and took a job teaching a specialty class for kids that were TK to second grade. The other end, the beginning of the identification of disabilities and how to support those. I was working with really big teams, and it was also really great work, really fulfilling work, but exhausting work. Hurt myself in the job, and I just found myself over, the 5 years and less artwork, and feeling like I was spending more and more time on self-care. So I was spending all this time in the gym and all this time, working with a therapist or anxiety groups and things like that, just because it's kind of overwhelming to meet the needs of a lot of people and my own. So after 5 years, I've been saying it for so long that I don't have enough to do my work, that I'm just work and I don't have the energy for it. But it's time to rethink my work. And so I decided to full-time teaching, transition to teaching as an art teacher. So that was about years ago, I guess. Now, so at the moment now, it's taken some time, but I'm transitioning to organization, working with 3. And I work all over the Bay Area. Well, usually right now it's July and 20. So everything's remote, but I usually am driving to 3 or 4 different cities every week and serving 3 or 4 different school districts, ranging from first grade to middle school classes all over the Bay. So it's been really great. It's been a challenge to figure out how to be, to advocate for myself, to figure out how to be the dog. Okay, you get the good and the bad, working with all different kinds of organizations, but I've also, what's been wonderful is that I love my work. I have so much more autonomy. I get to figure out what I want to teach and how I want to teach it. I get to develop relationships with schools and get to offer this thing, and to interact with kids through art and offer a program that is really rooted in racial justice. So it's felt really good. And then I also have had so much more time to work on my own practice. So like I said, I'm a printmaker and a painter, but over the years I've also started to teach myself how to bead and teach myself how to embroider lightweight and how to make baskets and how to do different things. We're right by Terry Base, so we're really crazy helicopters out here. What I was saying is that my work is really about resilience. So I've been working with YBCA since October last year as a fellow, and project started pre-COVID, and we were asked to think about the idea of public participation. How do you mobilize and uplift it? So who gets centered in those conversations? Who's prioritized and who's getting left out? Especially as we're coming into as 2020 is a census year, and we were kind of tasked to think about participation in terms of voting and the census, but also in how do we do that in our work? So, this current project I'm working on with YBCA came out of me learning more about how there are these 40 large amount of populations that the census is determined as hard to count for a variety of reasons, but they're basically Black people with disabilities, people that are incarcerated or houseless, trans people, undocumented people. The people, to me, it just is the link between all of the reasons why it's so hard for count these people is so inextricably linked to this inequitability. This way that there's inequity to basic needs, housing, mental health, education. I already said that, but health insurance. So I started to look at how just the connection between a lot of the injustices that are faced by that a lot of these populations are facing, and I wanted to really honor some of the groups with some portraits, some large scale portraits. So the series is called A Legacy of Resilience, and there's I'm starting with 3 pieces. They're larger, like 6 by 4 feet, mixed media pieces that include and myself, and then some block printing on fabric that is being done by an artist and friend of mine, Malaya Tule, and then and some embroidery that's done by an artist named Eli Reyes. So the first piece is about transgender asylum seekers that have been denied medical services and died in ICE detention centers. Portraits are Roxana Hernandez and Joana Medina Leon. It's really just to honor many, many lives been lost by detention of migrant people. And right now, with asylum being, attacked, there's going to be more people, more stories, and those are just the stories I could find really readily, easily in the media. But there's so many people that are even, have been valued even less, that her stories are not even told. So that one is to honor the transgender asylum seekers in detention, in ICE detention. And then the next piece I've been working on is about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, trans, GNC, non-binary, two-spirit relatives. So this piece will honor 2 more people that have gone missing or been murdered that are Indigenous. And just the statistics are just really devastating. Review with an Indigenous activist and named Anita Lucchesi. This, I'm not sure if she coined it, but she said they go missing 3 times in the media, in the media and the data, and in life. So just really, I feel like it's the impetus for all of this work. Really, is like, how can we really even count people if we've never really seen them, if we never really, if we don't value their lives, they're in this world, but also, we don't tell their stories, we don't investigate their stories, we don't try to find any justice for them, and then we don't count them, so we don't even know the gravity of the problem, because people are getting misgendered, they're getting misnamed, they're not being categorized correctly racially, and the data is just really incorrect. So this is the piece I'm working on right now. And then the next piece that I'm working on is for incarcerated Indigenous people of color, including people that have died because of police brutality. So it's really great work. I'm really happy with having this work to do right now. I've been just speeding for hours, and it's just it's a really good time to reflect about how just to think about all the people that have been lost, and all of the strength that keep fighting, and the people that are, really trying to make the world understand that this is a problem, and that these are all very specific problems that are very intersectional, and that we need to get free. So that's kind of that's been the work I've been doing. In terms of my work and how my work is connected to myself, I think that a lot of times my work has been really personal. My work has been, kind of an investigation to how different systems work in my love relationships, how patriarchy, misogyny, machismo, these horrible power dynamics have played out in some unhealthy relationships, and how they've kind of played on my psyche and my sense of self-worth, in just the ways that I feel that I've stayed in relationships and weren't healthy for me. So, my work has examined a lot of that. It's also, so I've looked to women and queer people in like our historical and mythological writings, that I've looked for people that they're kind of misinterpreted, and why they've been misinterpreted. So one of my pieces, it's called La Manicha Malinai. I looked at the story of this indigenous woman that was the translator for Cortez, who was a Spanish conqueror and came and colonized Mexico, conquering the Aztecs with the help of this interpretation of this 13-year-old indigenous woman, this basic young woman that was sold to him. So her story has been kind of interpreted as her being the traitor to the Mexican people, and the traitor to our bloodline. And when in fact she was a young child that was trafficked, and she was doing what she could to survive. And there's just countless stories like that have been turned around these really demonized these people that are seeking survival. She was a 13-year-old kid that knew 3 languages fluently. She was incredibly intelligent and survived. Instead, she's being called a traitor to the race and to the Mexican people. So I guess I've looked for a lot of archetypes that really prove that we come from this lineage really of strong ass women that are connected to the land, that use what they have, that have this intuition and this power that is to be feared, really. I think that so many times, women have been called witches or brujas because they're so powerful, really, because they're feared for being so powerful, being so in touch with the land, being so in touch with themselves, and not giving into the powers that be. So for me, I think I look to these women and these stories for strength and for confirmation. Just kind of helps me to know that there's just countless stories of queer people, women, just people that have paved their ways way before me. They paved the way before me to kind of live my best life. What's it for? What was all that for? If I don't try to live my best life, if I don't try to be my truest self and my most authentic self. So I think that my work has been very personal. And now it is still personal, but it's more kind of a response to what I see as these incredible inequities that allow for a lot of people to be undervalued, that have created these toxic situations and toxic beliefs that devalue people and don't honor them. The incredible forces that they are. So it's been really my goal is really just to try to give to amplify the work that's really already been out there. There's incredible mutual aid funds and incredible organizers that are doing work to amplify the stories of transgender asylum seekers, migrant people in detention, incarcerated people suffering at the hands of the police, and missing and murdered Indigenous people. I just really want to be able to give them something, give with my art a little more amplification, and just meditate on how many people have come before me and what it's for. So I think it's been nice to have kind of work that is more less personal but more political, and you can argue that those are one and the same, because they are, but it isn't necessarily me doing. It's not me making work that is kind of dissecting the space between my ears. It's more like me trying to do something about these atrocities that I see on a day-to-day basis. But I guess what's hard is that my work is really slow, and there's just so many people. I don't know what to say about that, but I think there's something to it. It's just thinking about how it feels like I by the time I start working on a piece, that there's 20,000 more stories like the stories of the people I've chosen to paint, and that it's already yesterday's news, because there's just constant stories coming out every day of more people being hurt or dying or going missing. And so I guess maybe I'm fighting against the urgency to just put something out really quickly to get a message out, and more like I really want to spend time these pieces, and I think when they come out, they'll still be really relevant, unfortunately, because the work is being done, but the work is just starting, really. So I think what I've learned really from all of that is what I would give to my community is is what I did really is I looked to my ancestors, and I found a lot of struggles. I found a lot of violence. I found a lot of trauma. But I also see people that are so resilient and so strong and so beautiful, and I continue to unearth those stories. And I think that it's really powerful to know your stories, and it's really powerful to also know that we have survived so much, and that we will continue and to survive so much, and thrive. Also, like I was saying about timing with my work and with my career and life, is just to trust in your own timing, not compare yourself to other people. Really know that when the time is right, it will come, whatever that is. If that's your whatever it is that you want to move forward in your life, it will come. And I think especially with your self-worth, for me, it's really important to listen and believe what people who respect say about me. So people who respect me, what they say about me is also really important to me, because I think we can have internalized a lot of racist and sexist and all the gross things, but we can internalize some really negative attitudes towards ourselves. And sometimes what really helps me is to really listen to what other people say, because usually it's beautiful what people say. And also trust yourself, listen to your own intuition, knowing that it's a muscle that grows stronger the more you use it. Also, so if I could talk to myself today, to little Alex, I would tell her that you deserve to be happy and safe and treated as an equal. You deserve to follow your own path and your labor. You are valuable. So watch out for people that would abuse your labor or abuse you. And that there are no mistakes. There's just opportunities to learn. I think to other Chicanx, other second generation, first generation immigrants, is really to always, family is so important, but make your path, trust your journey, draw from the strength of your family, and just know how amazing it is that you have come into this world, that how many obstacles our ancestors have overcome, and how much strength there is in that. There's just literally so much resilience and strength in our stories. Share those with your friends and your family. You will notice your communities notice that they're really they're collectively, we have so much strength and so many resources within ourselves. And I think sometimes as second generation or first generation people, third generation even, we're often the people that do things first, or maybe or it's never been done, or never been done the way that you want to do. And just because it hasn't doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means it's that much more spectacular when you do it. So just really trust that you can, little by little, put the work in, connect with community, connect with all of your resources. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to look, quote unquote, look stupid. Really, there's there is no looking stupid. Everybody always learns something new for the first time. Just try your best and, know that you are so valuable by yourself without anything that you give to this world. Just existing is valuable, and everything else is icing on the cake.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Alex. And thank you too, listener, for being a part of the Queer Circle. If you'd like to see more of Alex's work, visit her website at alexandriamartinez.squarespace.com. Or you can get in touch with Alex on Instagram at hechoporalex. Or you can visit our website, queercirclepodcast.com, for links to her sites. Music from today's episode was provided by Purple Fluorite from the Downcast Tempo mixtape. You can find this album and Purple Fluorite's other works anywhere streaming is available, Spotify, iTunes, and beyond.